because it's well, I'm hitting record. It's time for whatever the show is, Verbal Tap, and as we will frequently do, obviously I'm going to let you introduce him. I'm just stepping on the segment, one of my unofficial jobs here at Verbal Tap. I Googled our guest's name, BJJ, and I have to tell you, he's one of the funniest Google searches on the back. Like, just some funny headlines. Good ones as well, but just a whole barrage of emotional. So you go ahead and introduce whatever poor soul you will be putting up against me this week.
Okay. Well, of course, that's trying to diminish the power of this guest, but it's very hard to do that, Kevin, because not only is he a severe beast in the teaching realm of instructionals, but he's also deadly funny. And I thought, what better way to attack Kevin on this show for a UFC card that we're kind of iffy on, if we're being honest, than to bring some real entertainment value of a person who actually knows what they're talking about. And also, little sidebar, trying to shit on Kevin's parade because he's had too much good in the past 24 hours. So why don't we go ahead and bring on our good friend, Eli Knight. Eli, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. That's a hell of an intro. That's all over the place. So
I wrote down nothing for it.
It was amazing.
Eli, you are out that way. Where exactly are you based out of?
I am based out of Kentucky. I spend as little time as I can here, but I live here, and this is where my home base martial arts academy that I teach out of is. And so whenever I'm not traveling and trying to teach seminars and train different places and meet exciting people, and then I'm in Kentucky.
Of course, Kentucky, or as Donald Trump calls it, the new Kansas?
Well, it's Mississippi North. But that was my favorite. I'm from Kentucky, but he prefaced it immediately after. He knows he's talking to an LA guy. He's like, I spend as little time here as possible.
I say the same thing to Kentucky people, man. It's like this. I don't know. I don't want to shit on my state too much. I mean, there's good things about it, but yeah, it's an interesting place to live.
Eli, we've discussed this. I served 2 years in Kentucky, not in like a service or anything, just living there. Like, I consider that a tour of duty on my part.
Right. And somewhere between a tour of duty and a prison sentence, maybe. Yeah.
Somewhere, I would say, in between that. Yeah, I mean, the education system has many different names to it.
Better food than prison, usually. Yeah. I'm not always. Like, there's some prisons, like wherever Martha Stewart went. But otherwise, usually it's better food.
Geez,
for sure.
Kevin, you got to believe the nicest, and I say that there's such a thing called polite racism. The nicest polite racism I ever experienced was in Bowling Green, Kentucky, when a very sweet woman came up to me and asked me if I had ever eaten at a certain Mexican food restaurant because look at my face. And I had to politely tell her, like, I haven't had the chance to get there. And she goes, Esparza. What's Sparsa? Just like from Zorro. And I was like, yep, exactly like that. That's my background. Granddad was Zorro. You got us. So anyway, Eli, I'm so happy that you're joining us here today. Did you have any time to watch the Super Bowl over the weekend, or were you traveling and doing one of the many seminars that you give in the entire world?
No, I was actually in town over the weekend, and I got to see like 70% of the Super Bowl, like just slightly after halftime before things, I had to get back on the road. We went to a friend's house and he lived pretty far out. Long story short, I saw about 75% of the Super Bowl. So
that's not bad. That's a Nielsen rating view. Kev, at what point would you say you were the drunkest?
I would say at the 75% point of the game. There was a part, we were 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter. I think I reached peak inebriation because it was not going well. And then there was a nice, that's why he's like, I watched 75% of the game. It's like, wow, if you missed a certain 10% chunk, the outcome makes no sense. And
yeah. You guys are out there. So you're probably 49ers fans.
Okay. He is. I'm in Denver, but I am from Kansas City. That is my home of choice. Well, no, it's my Kentucky of choice, I guess is how I would say.
Right. Yeah.
And
see, where we are, we don't have any professional sports teams anywhere like remotely close. Well, remotely close, we do, but we have to borrow pro sports teams from St. Louis and Nashville, and so the closest thing, and this is like how kind of like I guess inbred is maybe the right word, but like we have to just reach for geography. So the closest team that we had was Kansas City going to the Super Bowl. That's all I can figure out, which why everybody around here was for Kansas City, and everybody's like, oh, fuck the 49ers. And I'm like, what? Why? Like, I don't understand
because it's Hootie Tootie, California, Eli. Come on.
I guess so.
This is basic geography.
You guys and your gun laws out there and stuff.
Amen. And I'm still reaching peak drunkenness from a holistic view. I think some of the toxins are just now starting to exit my system.
I will say one of the funniest things about living in California and reading why people don't like us out this way. And granted, I'm Southern California, which is arguably the better part. But even when I'm rooting for the 49ers, which I grew up loving, and then I took a courtesy bow in college from rooting for because reasons. I mean, they didn't have the best of times, so I figured I could take some Sundays off. And I have to say, when I was looking to see why people didn't like them, one of the most prevalent comments I saw was when people were glad that they lost. They're like, yeah, and homelessness too, and rent. Yeah. And I go,
that's funny. Add rent to that. It's like the rent is a nightmare. It's like they have they Palo Alto. What else do they need? Like they just we should add that. It's like traffic's a pain in the ass. Weather's all northern and Seattle-ish. It's weird.
Could be foggy and the bridge and soup. So these were very confusing times to me. However, I have to say, Kev, with the whole split between me and you on this one, I didn't mind watching you guys win. I actually was very okay with it. I knew that if anybody was ever going to be invited to the Trump food of the championship winner buffet, Andy Reid deserves that more than any human that I know in my life.
I'm really conflicted about this part because I'm not a Trump supporter, though I can only imagine it might be him that motivated Andy Reid. He saw that McDonald's dinner that he fed the college kids. He was like, oh, I didn't know that was on the table. All right.
There's one brilliant meme that basically made it. They have the call sheet with all the different plays on it, and it's all laminated. And they showed a photo of the other side, and it was a menu at a diner. And I said, listen, guys, this man has done nothing really wrong to you, I think. But, man, do we go hard on the fat jokes. And I have to say, when he won, I just said, he just beat essentially my team for the Super Bowl, and I don't really care. So anyway, that's where we're at right now. Eli, I'm so glad you were able to tell us about that. What is going on with you in terms of I see instructionals going on all the time. You said there's 10 free videos, and I know that our cheapskate listeners, when they hear 10 free anythings, go, excuse me, what? So would you mind telling our listeners what you have in store for them?
Well, yeah, because it took some thinking about this. I did this. I've been working on this project with a group called the Budo Brothers, and the Budo Brothers are like this martial arts media and apparel and training, and they had this idea. I've had a relationship with them. They had this idea called a digital seminar, and I'm like, okay, so is that like a digital download, like DVD? What is this going to be? And they're like, no, it's like a course. So I mean, you go on and you basically join into a course that you go through like different modules of it, and it's really cool. It's something really interesting to follow along with. They do great production value and all that. So we filmed this whole thing in Calgary, like March. Yeah, I think it was like March of last year. And we've been working on it like in bits and pieces, and then we finalized it and we filmed a lot more in early December. And because we just felt like we could make it even like more and like kind of pack it out, and we did. Like this thing's gonna have over, I mean, as far as video segments, anywhere from like 1 minute to 5 or 6 minutes in length. Some of them may be longer. It's going to be like 170 something videos. It's like over 7 hours of like course content for this.
Okay, pause right here for a second. I'm going to let you continue. Kev, do me a solid. Go to Google.
Yeah.
Go to YouTube. Then look up how many videos Eli already has on his YouTube page, and then come back to the conversation. Eli, go ahead and continue, please.
Okay. So anyway, we've got this thing ready to go. It's all finalized and everything, and it looks amazing because those guys do such great film work and editing and production and all that, and know how to like put together one of these digital seminars. So I'm really excited about it. And so we were
snap.
like
Rolling with jiu-jitsu. Shit. First of all, 203 videos. Nothing to sneeze at, but you also teamed up with the only other viable thing Kentucky has to offer.
Right?
Mr. Nick Chewy Album. That's awesome.
Yeah, Chewy's awesome, man. Like it's ridiculous how long it took us to like do anything collaboratively. And finally, we got in contact with each other. He actually came down to my place. He's in Louisville on the other side of the state, and he came down and we filmed a few videos together. And I talked to him the other day, and we're going to do some more stuff in the near future, hopefully. So
okay, but most of those things on your page are technique videos. So that's already what you said 400, Kevin, somewhere in that neighborhood.
203.
Okay, so 203 videos of educational content on what to do in jiu-jitsu. Now you're telling me that you got like 100 plus, maybe 170 more.
Yeah.
If they were to do a collective on this podcast of instructional videos, we'd be done before you'd say a dozen. So how do you keep churning out content like that? Because I just, what kind of like mind map do you have for this?
Well, actually, I'm surprised that the number is that low on my YouTube. It feels like a lot more, but I know that there are.
Oh, it could be. I'm terrible at this. That was a first.
There's as many or more videos on there that are unlisted, that are like privately listed, because I use those for like my Patreon account and stuff like that. So, it's got like there's a lot on there, but yeah. So the big thing, like whenever somebody like asks me, like, I did stuff with BJJ Fanatics, and whenever somebody asked me to do something like that, I'm like, oh my God, like this is a great opportunity. And, don't feel like I'm worthy to take this like big opportunity. So I'm just going to like brain dump everything I know on this one project and make it like huge, because I'll never get this chance again. And this is it. So I got to do it all big right now. So that's why like it's like big things. Like my one with BJJ Fanatics was a big one. It's like an 8-disc thing if you get the DVDs of it. It's like, so it's a lot of content. But it's a lot about the way that it's structured. And yeah, so the cool thing about this course is like it's got course modules where it's like full instructional and it almost follows like a curriculum. But then we wanted to do like bonus content. So there's over 100 videos that we were like, you know what, we want to film 100 1-minute-ish videos. And so I taught, it's the fastest teaching I ever did, but I tried to do, as good of a job as I could in a 1-minute segment. So like 100 of those videos are 1 minute to a minute and a half segments, which is fun.
It's right in my attention span sweet spot.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you found my cocaine sweet spot for educational videos. So between those two things, it's a winning combination.
That's how I am. Like I've got such a short like attention span, and if I understand something, I can explain it pretty quickly. And so I was like, you know what? I would watch 1-minute videos all day. I wouldn't sit down and watch a 15-minute video personally. If it were, I don't know, I've got a very short attention span, but I would watch like 50 1-minute videos in a row. So
okay. That's
kind of
It's
how
a
I feel
little
about it.
backwards, but okay. I mean, I get it.
Oh yeah, it makes
You
no
know,
sense. But
by the time
it's
you
just,
sit there and you're 50 minutes in, it's essentially watching an hour video. Anyway, Kevin, not important. Here's where we get into the nitty gritty of things, because Kev has learned a lot about you. However, he hasn't had the opportunity to ask you questions that will become important when we get to the shit talking portion. Kevin, do you have questions for him?
Yeah, so far after Googling you, I've found too much about your lineage, a
yeah.
controversial article about something called bladed grappling and shedding new light
Oh,
on self defense. What's
oh
your
God.
story here? How do you become? Yeah, we'll talk about what those blue stripes on your BJJ black belt mean later.
Okay.
But specifically, how'd you get into this? What's your background? Why do you because I'm looking at a lot of your videos and they're really functional, 5 sweeps, had a knee bar from this spot, some
Mhm.
chokes you should know, solo drills, those types of things. How'd you get started
Yeah.
on this whole journey, and where does the specific application to, because it looks like you have a lot of functional self-defense narratives, where do you start all that stuff?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's when I started with martial arts, I did the taekwondo thing in the beginning for a short period of time, and then I found someone to train with that was doing jujitsu. It wasn't really like Brazilian jiu-jitsu or Gracie jiu-jitsu, because that wasn't really very well known at the time. This was like the very early 90s. This was like right before UFC came out. And I started training with him, and then UFC came out, and of course Gracie Jiu-Jitsu exploded, and then we kind of we kept on training like other martial arts like for years and years, and I still do train Muay Thai mostly, but other martial arts in addition to Jiu-Jitsu. But we really went all in on the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu front, and so it was very over the years, the complexion and the emphasis they've placed on differentiating what self-defense is to the more sportive aspects of it, or to the MMA, has really kind of shifted a little bit. It's always been there. It's just like specifically stating like this is what you need to focus on. So my background was always just like, this is what is going to work in a fight. This is what's going to work in fighting versus, just rolling in a competition or rolling in the gym with the gi on. And then, but the biggest pleasure I get out of all that is like seeing the overlaps and seeing how the self-defense aspect of it evolved into the sport, rather than just shitting on one or the other and saying, self-defense is stupid, you just need sport, or, sport's stupid, you just need self-defense. I really like the whole thing. And so, which isn't always the most popular thing whenever you're trying to run a YouTube channel, because you get guys that come over there because they like the way you do, a knee bar entry or some kind of leg entanglement to a heel hook, and then your next video you come out with is like, if somebody attacks you on the street this way, this is what you should do, and they're like, what the fuck? And this is not what I signed up for. But I've been fortunate to find out that there's more people out there than I realized in the beginning that are interested in all aspects of it, and so that's really been cool. That's been like my goal, is to kind of like narrow that divide between people on both sides of the aisle, like shitting on the self-defense people putting down the sport, and sport people putting down the self-defense. I want to like kind of narrow that chasm a little bit.
Awesome. What is the difficulty about recording that you have found, in terms of, so how many takes does it usually take you to knock out one of these videos? I'm looking for some nitty gritty. Are there certain days you just can't get the lines out? What's your process?
Oh, okay. Here's my process. If I'm fortunate enough to have a quiet area and somebody to do some like move with, and somebody to hold my phone to record it, because that's about the extent of my recording equipment. Then, and I actually have an idea of what to show, then I'm good to go for the most part. But those stars have to line up. So, it's like sometimes I'll really have a good idea and I really want to get it recorded, but it's like there's back-to-back classes and it's noisy as shit and somebody's lifting weights outside the door, like it's just a nightmare. Or I don't have somebody to film with. or there's nobody around, and I can't in good conscience just set my phone up on a tripod or a camera on a tripod. It bores me to tears, and I have to have somebody kind of moving around to like chase the angles. You know, if I was demonstrating, like you can demonstrate a lot on like a stationary camera, like, and just talking into it, but it's like it's not with jiu-jitsu though. With jiu-jitsu, there's just too many nuances. You got to find, like, you got to see what's happening on both sides. You have to see the movement. You have to track it. So I don't know. That's yeah.
There's a lot of thought that's going into all these things, Kevin. This bodes very badly for you. Now, here's where we offer the guest an opportunity to cross-examine Kevin, because, you know, you have to make fun of him, and Kevin could be a blank slate to you. I mean, you know that he's drunk when he's watching his beloved Chiefs, and that it was an emotional roller coaster of yesterday, and he still not be over it. So what would you like to ask Kevin that will give you the fuel to properly make fun of him when we transition in just a couple minutes?
I'm so bad at shit talking people and making fun of people. Like,
perfect. We've heard
I'm just
enough.
so like I have, you know, I don't ever want to hurt anyone's feelings, and
you hurt people in jiu-jitsu. You don't
Oh,
do
man.
a polite version of jiu-jitsu. It's just like,
It's-
oh, I'm sorry, did I cross collar you too hard?
It is literally the gentle art, Raph. I mean, like, it's right there in the name.
I've seen your videos. There are many things that you do that do not look gentle. Like, do you tell someone when they're about to learn self-defense, like, oh, hey, BT dubs, here's the gentle touch that'll keep that gun away from you?
Yeah, it's in not so many words, you know. I mean, it's you flow with the energy of the attacker. It's, you know, it's like Aikido and Tai Chi, you know.
Well, why don't
All
you
right,
ask
but-
Kevin
Yeah.
just a couple quick questions so that we can go through the dance and
Got it.
say that we did it.
So Kevin, what is your I mean, obviously we're going to be talking about the UFC here in a minute, and what kind of like martial arts, MMA, like any kind of training or any kind of like background in I don't know like what your background is actually. So like,
You and me
tell
both.
me about yourself.
Well, for the most recent 48 hours, it's been way too many calories and a lot of alcohol. But beyond that, which I think is your question, there was about 5 months of some pretty good capital MMA Muay Thai. And I'm going on around 10 years of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu training. Very much not in the streets, more in the mat-based sheets, if you will.
Yeah, I was waiting for the sheets.
Yeah, I'm a purple belt. I've been doing it for, I don't know, 10, 11 years, give or take. And my last few years riddled with injuries, but otherwise a jiu-jitsu human being.
It's kind of
Gotcha.
like somebody's playing like a role-playing game, and Kevin is the person that is the brunt of it. So they roll a dice, and then all of a sudden it's like injury on the knee, and Kevin's like, "Oh shit, why is my knee hurt?"
I have not ruled out a voodoo doll situation with a scorned ex-lover, and I wouldn't be opposed to it either. I'm sure I deserve it.
At the very least, it would give us more answers, Kev, because some of these injuries, I'm like, where the fuck did that come from?
Straight
So
up
anyway,
made a few of them up. That's how I roll.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, you know, Kev, I think we have all the information we need, which is for us to transition to the game of Over, Under, Kevin.
And now it's time for another thrilling installment of
Over Under Kevin.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the segment of the show that we like to call Over Under Kevin. It's a very, very fun portion of the show, mostly because these two people who seem very nice to each other right now are about to tear into each other if I have any say in it. The way this game works is very simple. We give each person 15 seconds to say who they think is going to win each of the fights that we pull out of order randomly for UFC 247. If I so deem it, they get 15 seconds of rebuttal time. And again, even though they technically will win if they get more picks correct, we value here the trash talking more than correct picks. Gentlemen, do you both understand the rules? Kevin, do you understand the rules?
Yeah, and unlike my opponent, you won't find any headlines in my Google history that say jiu-jitsu is in everything. And I didn't even read the Summit BJJ post. I'm just inferring from the article headline.
Eli, do you have a response to that, sir?
Well, I didn't have the luxury of doing as much research on Kevin. I saw his Pornhub profile, and I didn't get much beyond that in his Grindr account. So that's all I have to go on. We'll see how this pans out.
I will tell you the Grindr will tell you more information than you are probably willing to know, but it will be helpful.
And
it's
it
kind of like a
certainly
video game.
highlights my martial arts history. Got to have that thing spruced up for the boys.
Well, gentlemen, since you both understand the rules, why don't we go to our first bout? And it is a bantamweight bout between. This is a fake name.
Both of them are. I think I already know which match.
This is the stupidest name I've had to read and not make up a name for. But yes, a bantamweight bout between Journey, the band, Newson, and Domingo Pelarte. Kevin, you're going to start us off. You have 15 seconds on the clock. Go.
Don't stop Pelarte. That's who I'm gonna pick. I felt that one was my easiest. I was gonna use Journey to sing Pelarte, and it works. It's levels.
It was a little confusing, but I do like the initiative. We go to you, Eli. 15 seconds on the clock for you.
Wow. Well, for some reason, I want Pelarte to lose now just because of that singing. But like, that's not fair for me to say that, but it's how I feel now. So I'm gonna take Newsom. Yeah.
Okay. Now, Kev, do you find that it's a little troubling that he may have had a different pick, but because of your balladry, he is changing it? What does this say about Eli?
It says the same thing I've already hinted at. He has a history of flip-flopping. Because I'm seeing one where it's like jiu-jitsu-based self-defense solutions, the Eli Knight DVD. Then I see jiu-jitsu is not the answer to everything. Eli Knight. It's just he's a constant flip-flopper rap.
Fair enough. Not a very consistent record. Eli, do you have a response to that?
No, I'm a complex individual, and I have developed a thick skin over the years to these kind of trivial insults, and they just wash off my back like ducks, water, and stuff.
Yep. Okay.
No, hold on. Point of order. Kentucky people don't bathe. We all know that, so I'm not going to let that metaphor go.
Too easy.
Second, a complicated individual from the South. Someone call CNN. We did it. We've located the first case of a complicated Southerner.
There's a part of me that wishes in a different part of the multiverse that we get to meet Eli, the guy that works at the zoo, that just goes, yeah, that duck, he's in the water. And they're notorious for being watery.
Have you not seen my duck water videos on YouTube? I've published quite a few.
Oh my God, show me that world now, Dr. Strange. Let's go to our next bout. It's a welterweight bout between Alex Morano and Kaylin Williams. Eli, you've got 15 seconds. Go.
Well, let's see. I'm not familiar with either one of these. I've seen Alex Morano fight, and I'm reading right now actually that he's the favorite, and I was impressed by that performance. So that's all I have to go on. So I'm going to pick Morano.
Okay, Kev, you've got 15 seconds. Go.
Bad news for both fighters. In the ESPN Do You Have a Picture category, they do not. They do not. They look like grays, which if you follow the UFOology community, which I'm not saying I do because I don't want my life ruined, but it looks a lot like that. I tell you what, if it's just a battle of grays, I'll take the opposition. I'll take Kaylin, which even sounds like a fake alien name.
Yeah, for real. Next bout is a heavyweight bout, and this is my favorite name so far. This is the Mexican version of a former president of the United States, Juan Adams, versus Justin Taffa. Kevin, you've got this one. 15 seconds.
Juan Adams is a great. He's one of the Spanish founding fathers. him and Guillermo Thomas. They're very. So I'm gonna go with Juan Adams for obvious reasons.
Thank you. Go ahead, Eli.
Yeah, it's heavyweight. Like heavyweights, they're like one punch away from knocking each other out. But I actually had Tafa for this one. And it's the one that I actually was interested in kind of seeing, which I'm not usually interested in much of the heavyweight fights, but this one looks good. Tafa.
Okay, explain yourself. I'm putting 15 seconds to say why you're excited for this fight.
No, I didn't say excited. I mean,
I thought you did. Kev, did he say excited?
He's a salesman, Raph. You know, the camera's rolling.
Actually looking forward to maybe, but I wasn't excited. So, I mean, it was... Yeah,
I just wanted to send my next his Hispanic president name.
I know.
Jorge Washington is back on the next card as a strawweight.
Guys, I figured out how to do my version of Hamilton now. That shit just sold for $75 million for a recording of the play from 4 years ago. Yeah. Look what I can do when I bring Jorge Washington, Juan Adams, and Benedicio.
It's going to be like a founding father West Side Story kind of mashup.
It's founding papa is what it is. God, I'm not going to get over this. Juan Adams is what I'm going to bed thinking about tonight. All right, let's move on. Eli, you're going to tell us who's winning this middleweight bout between Traven Giles and Antonio Arroyo, who will also star in my version of Juan Adams. Go.
Yes, another one that I'm not super familiar with. I have seen Arroyo, and I don't know, but I saw that Giles is the favorite to win by submission, which makes me think that he's got a better ground game, and I always pull for the jiu-jitsu guy, so I'm going to go with Giles.
Giles. Kev, what do you got?
Well, you don't always pull for the jiu-jitsu guy, according to the internet. I'm just joshing. I'm joshing now. I am also going to go with Giles, and mine is purely based off of a very weird ESPN reason. They have a picture of Arroyo. He is his human form, but it's still gray, which is a confusing merger of their previous templates. They either have your picture... They have your picture, except you're a gray human being, or they just have a gray stand-in.
So he's like a hybrid. He's like that old alien show V, where they would wear human skin, but they were really lizards underneath.
Dynamite,
this guy's part gray.
Yes, it's like that awesome show V that people definitely remember.
That was huge in the 80s. How old are you guys? Come on. Is it Giles or Giles?
Who cares?
Oh, I don't know. Wait, V was based off of an 80s series? Because it came back with that woman who was in a few things.
Good job, Kev.
Yeah. I never saw the reboot. Like I was all about the 80s series when I was like, I don't know, 10 years old or something. I don't know.
Okay, gentlemen, point of order real quick. We can't go from a niche sport like jiu-jitsu and MMA and then decide to slice that pie a little bit by little bit when we get to 80s mini movie series. Because at this point, I just wonder who will be listening. Because, well, maybe there is a demo. You know what? Fuck it. Let's double down.
I'm just hoping to get a headline that's like Eli Knight against V reboot as a headline. I got a lot of work to get it up there.
It's not effective alien self-defense on the streets or in the planet systems.
I think there should be a whole segment that's like 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, except with 80s miniseries shows to modern jiu-jitsu or MMA.
We'll work on it. We're going to flesh it out in post. Okay. However, I will say, if you're not in on it now, I want to see if we can get you as the self-defense expert for Space Force, Eli, because I think that's the next venture. We're going to go to
on that contract right now.
Well, I mean, it's not going to mean anything pretty soon. But bantamweight, Kevin, Andre Ewell versus Jonathan Martinez. Go.
First of all, both fighters pictured, so congratulations to them. Also, two southpaws, so don't be confused when you start see it swinging. But I'm sticking with the theme. I'm going with Martinez because I cannot say you will.
Okay, Eli, what do you got for us on this one?
Yeah, being in Kentucky, I would pronounce that Ewell, but I'm sure that's wrong. Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. I'm not gonna fake.
Like, how's he doing?
We'll go with Martinez.
Okay.
Yeah, He's doing Ewell. I don't know. I'm gonna go with Martinez though.
Okay, so you're both picking Martinez. Kev, are you starting to get worried about Eli over here? Because this is the second one you guys are both in agreement on.
Yeah, I'll see if I can cue up some banjo music, make him feel comfortable, get him his confidence back.
Nice.
Eli, is there anything that Kevin's doing that's taking you off of your picking game right now?
Only when he sounds like he's actually informed about some of these fights, because most of these I'm not super familiar with on this card. This is one of those cards where they just took they were like, oh, we got these 2 to 3 huge matchups here, and let's just throw some other shit on this card. No offense to any of the other fighters, obviously, because I'm sure they're all magnificent. They've worked their ass off to get there, like, all respect, but it's one of those very imbalanced as far as notoriety cards.
Completely. All respect, but no respect. Here we go to the featherweights. Mirsad Bektic versus Dan Ige. Eli, you go first. 15 seconds.
I am against anything with MRSA and the name of it. That shit is scary and hard to get rid of. I'm gonna have to go with Ige.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. IGE. Kev, what do you got for us?
Yeah, it's Dan Ige, which is it was like, we've only got 6 letters, guys, so let's start with Dan, and then we'll just fill in the rest. I am going with Mirsad Bektic because I actually, for the other reason, I've had the Bektics, and it's fantastic. It really flushes, makes your skin glow, so I'm going with Bektic.
Fair enough.
Okay, I'm Googling Bektics right now.
You don't want to.
Okay.
Here's 20 seconds, gentlemen, for this women's flyweight co-main event. It is Valentina Shevchenko versus Caitlin Shook again. Kev, you've got 20 seconds. Go.
I'm shook still. I can't believe Shevchenko in this gun climate still walks around with that inflammatory NRA tattoo. Cue note to the aggregators. I am aware it's not an NRA-based tattoo. I'm still joking about it.
Might as well be.
Please send the message to Raph. It'll really brighten up his day.
No.
He loves getting messages about my jokes. So I'm going with Chuka Still to come in for this one.
Oh.
Wait, who? What?
It's
what
Chook
name did you
again. It's Chook again. I did a little Chuka Still because I'm
Chaka Khan. Is that?
I'm keeping the. I like that.
Okay.
Chuka win.
Yeah. Well,
Go.
Valentina Shevchenko is the pound for pound best fighter in the UFC. So until she fights Khabib, then I don't think she has a good matchup. So I'm going to pick her to win.
Kev,
Yeah, I don't
who
feel
would
great
you
about
bet
that
on between Khabib and Valentina?
Well,
It's a close fight.
If I find out that Khabib gets a shotgun tattoo riding down his thigh, which I'm not going to discount, I'll probably still go Shevchenko.
Okay. Good to know. Gentlemen, we now are at a heavyweight bout again. This one, Eli, you're starting us off on 15 seconds on the clock to tell us who will win between Derek Lewis and Ilir Queen Latifi. Go.
Anytime I've ever bet against Derek Lewis, it's bitten me in the ass. So I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm just going to, until he fights somebody that I'm pretty positive is just going to demolish him, then I'm going to go with Derek Lewis. So just hope his balls are hot that night.
Fair enough. Kevin,
Where
are you at?
I don't know if I'm excited about hot balls or good temperatures, so he goes on a good place. But I'm right with you. The easiest way for me to assure a Derek Lewis knee injury reported after the fight is to put $15 on him as the favorite. But he's just so much bigger than Latifi by a large majority. So I'm going to go with Mr. the Black Beast, Derek Lewis.
Eli, question. You said that you've gotten burnt before. Is this wagering? Are you wagering on the streets of Kentucky where there's prohibition, sir?
No, I am not at an official capacity. Now we have some fun in house and stuff, but no, I don't do any like sports apps for betting or anything like that. Just mostly because I can gamble theoretically great, but when it comes to like physical money being put down on things, then it takes a sharp turn.
Let me read between the lines here, Raph.
Yeah.
We've got a footloose situation. He already got accused of jiu-jitsu being too close to dancing. He can't be associated with any other sins. So he's like, no. It's about knife fighting. Had to add a whole dangerous element just so he didn't get kicked out of Kentucky. Look, I've had a similar story. I can hear it in his voice. He's in the Kentucky Dancing Protection Program.
That's a thing.
I didn't know that people knew about it outside of Kentucky. I'm a little sad. Word's starting to get out there. This is the point in the show when we like to say there is a friendly wager.
Raph used to moonwalk and was politely asked to leave the state and never return.
Kev, you know for sure that the minute I danced in Kentucky, there was a very quick hush tone of, get him out of here.
You just receive a letter 2 days later.
He's got too much rhythm. Get the fuck out of here.
You get out of here now.
You get, is what they said to me.
It's GIT.
Get, which is almost, what is it, Dan Ige? That name. You ig out of here.
It sounds like a radio. It's Dan Ige in the morning. Everybody's like, what?
He sounds like a really shitty shock jock that nobody gets shocked by. Hey, what's up? It's Dan Ige in the morning. Weather sucks. And they're like, yeah. Not really controversial, Dan. Good try, though. Hey, here's the moment in the show when we'd like to say that there is usually a friendly wager of some part. Now, Kev, we've learned already that even if we did bet money on this show, Eli wouldn't do it. So, fortunately, on this show, we do make wagers that are not monetary because we all do jiu-jitsu, which means we don't make money, except for Eli, who has a fucking Patreon. So I want a little cut of that Patreon sweet and that YouTube residuals that you get. That's why when you said, Kev, how do he and Chewy know each other? It's what happens when people who have over 100,000 subscribers do. They get on a little secret YouTube chat room and they can talk to each other, or they mind meld. I'm not really sure because we're very far from that. But anyway, Kev, can you give some examples of bets that have had to be fulfilled in games of Over Under Kevin before?
I absolutely can, Raph, and thank you. Well, I owe Jake Watson a video currently where I endorse him to replace me as your co-host on the Grappling Hour.
Fair.
Important to note, I'm not your co-host on the Grappling Hour.
You are not.
I just still think it's helpful, and for this show. So there's a few different things. Gary Tonin owed me a shirt, as well as still owes me 30 seconds of him doing improv karaoke because he was bragging about his singing ability. That's on him. I did win not too long ago with Alec Balding, a nice video where he had to explain how to avoid getting a loss to me, and I thought he absolutely nailed it. So, maybe there's like the two ways of avoiding the verbal tap beatdown. A video in our future and or some sort of exchange like that. But those are some ideas.
So without saying what the idea is, if you do have one, do you have an idea for a wager in mind right now, Eli?
I do.
Without saying what it is.
Okay.
We got 3 fights to go. We're going to do that. Okay, here we go. Bantamweight bout. Kevin, you're going to tell us this. These are 2 first names, which I don't like. Miles Johns versus Mario Batista? That doesn't sound right. All right, go.
Mario Batista is for sure. I was like, is that the Dodgers second baseman? No. So, sad news for the Johns, as he has the traditional gray, which is ridiculous for someone who's undefeated. I got to go with Johns.
All right. What do you got for us on this one, Eli?
Yeah, I think from anything that I've read, again, this is what I'm familiar with, I would normally go for Batista because that's a big guy. When he played, even now playing like Drax the Destroyer in the Avengers movies and from WWE days. Like, he's just too big for that division. But Jon seems to be the heavy favorite, so I'm going to go with him.
I have a little point of information here for our viewers. We read that one in the U.S. equivalent, but if you are in other parts of the country, that name is known as Kilometer Johns.
Oh, that explains
what he
it.
is known
I was
for.
having trouble.
Wasn't sure if we were able to
Damn
reach. Yep,
U.S.
dog
metric
love that
system.
joke. I take that.
Your dog is
as
like, that was a
response.
funny one, Dad.
It's like
Really?
we love
Yeah.
metric humor.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I thought so too. All right,
It always goes over well.
I know my demo. However, my own dog Lucy is looking at me like, Jesus, another fucking pun.
Yeah.
Shut up, Dad. Women's flyweight bout. Eli, you tell us who's winning this one between Lauren Murphy and Andrea Lee. Go.
Between Lauren Murphy and Andrea Lee. This one I've done extensive research on. I mean, from the history of Murphy coming up off of a blistering KO over Mara Romero Borella. I remember that clearly in August 2019. Fuck, I don't know, Murphy. We'll go Murphy.
Murphy, all right. I like that roundabout. This is a guy who definitely has done presentations before and has been like, how long do I have to get up here and speak for? You have to speak for 5 minutes. Cool, 5 minutes.
All right,
Interesting
starting
stuff.
now. So has the clock started going? Excellent. All right.
Yes.
Well, I'm Eli from Kentucky.
Can you hear
all
me in the
know
back?
that? Is everybody?
Which explains why the first 30 seconds of any Eli video is just him being like, does this work? God, a whole minute to fill. I mean, yeah, I can do it, but you guys should already know how to get on a side control, you losers, which I thought was a very weird way to take that. Kev, what do you got for us on this?
Oh my God! I was just also at something where they did the whole non-announcement announcement. They got on the mic. They're like, "We're gonna start in just a few minutes. We're waiting on someone." Is this? Can you all hear me? It was like, you just broke two of my rules in 20 seconds. I'm going with Andrea Lee, one Gladiator Training Academy, nickname KGB, last name Lee. Those people usually have a very short temper because they've never had to focus on things like spelling their name or empathizing with being in the last line with something like Schwarzkopf to spell, right? She's just focused. She's just ready to murder. KGB.
I feel like her and Shevchenko are in the back plotting a new axis of evil to come attack everybody.
I'm subscribing to that axis. I want to hear what they. I'll go to a few meetings. I want to hear what they have to say.
What was the horrible photoshopped posters of who was it that she is the Asian fighter on the card and
you're
had
talking
everyone
about
with like the masks wearing around her like on the fighter posters.
You're talking about, is it Joanna's?
You're talking about Jedrzejek's most recent faux pas on social media, but it's still not. She's my favorite.
It was yeah. When I saw that, I was like, oh my God, yeah, they went full coronavirus on that one.
You never go full coronavirus. Gents, here is the final bout of the night. As a result, I've put 30 seconds on the clock. Kevin, tell us who's going to win. Jon, Pico, Graham Jones, or Dominic was never a good enough wrestler, but Jon Jones still hates him anyway and wants to talk about his wrestling because that's a barometer. Raise, go.
There's so many different things that the Jackson Winkle crew is putting out that make Jon Jones appear to be some sort of special forces operator, which I think is a great next step for him career-wise. Just go to the military. You're going to love it. I think it's great. We're almost to that special day of the year, Valentine's Day, where you can show someone that you've been doing cocaine and training too much by rear-ending them accidentally in the street. Try to make sure that they're not with child first. I'm going with Jon Jones. It's his time of year. It's cold.
Yep. Fair enough. Eli, what do you got for us? 30 seconds on the clock. Go.
I don't know how not to go with Jon Jones
For the same exact reasons, please.
Yeah, Yeah, those and so many more. I mean, Reyes, like, he's got like a puncher's chance is basically everything that I've read about. I mean, he's not gonna out wrestle. He's not gonna do anything like to manage the ranges better than Jon Jones. Like, everything goes in Jon Jones's favor. It's to even say somebody has a puncher's chance against Jon Jones is kind of weird because I've never even seen him really rocked. You know, I mean, it's absurd. I don't know what the can.
And
Jon Jones.
Jon Jones. Do you know the odds? Have you seen the odds?
No.
It's like negative 1,100 or something crazy.
It's not quite that bad. I see the average is minus 450. So you basically, to win $100, you'd have to bet 200. Think of it like that.
No, thanks.
Yeah. Well, or think about it like this: you just bet 2 UFC Banff belts. Monetarily, and that would yield you one additional one if you bet 2.
Kev, can I say the thing that I regret the most from our last episode was the fact that when we did the recap of UFC 246, we didn't actually take the opportunity to say that despite sitting in the crowd with his BMF belt, they still had not shipped. Like, it was going to ship that Monday. And yet I was like, Raph, make sure to mention that joke. Make sure to mention that joke. And then we let the show go out. And I don't have many regrets when the show goes out. But that was one of the first ones I've had. And definitely the first one in 2020. So
you're saying that you bought a BMF belt then?
No, unfortunately, the show cannot afford that in any circumstance. If someone would like to donate it to the show, I don't know, who's got plenty of YouTube money that just seems to be raking in, that's fine. You're welcome to do that.
Yeah, let me tell you how that Google AdSense just stacks up, just racks on racks of Google AdSense.
It's so true. It's so good.
It's something I know I can depend on monthly. I'll tell you that much. Yeah.
Hey, but you know what? You can fuck off. You can go to the Google fucking recording zone anytime you want. So that's the trade-off, my friend.
That's a good trade-off being in Kentucky. That's awesome.
And where's the closest one near me?
Probably, right, down the street from you or something. I'm
gonna go on a 405, which we're essentially the same distance if that's the case. So, Kev, here's what we should do. We should figure out who is going to have the performances and the fight of the night. So there's 2 performances that give out by Dana each fight night, and then there's 1 fight of the night. So Kevin,
or there's 3, or there's 2, or it's wherever the fuck he chooses at that point. It's also just like the BMF replica belt, which now will not be able to be delivered until after 2/3/20.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
So let's say this, Kevin, who are the performances of the night? The 2 people who win that, in theory, and then the fight of the night.
Yeah. First is Jon Jones. Because it turns out he's been listening to Eli Knight's series and just pulls out a knife and cuts up Reyes.
Tight.
Nice.
It
wouldn't shock me, right? It's sort of his like Holyfield, like Tyson exit on this beautiful sport.
You know what, Kev? At this point, it's one of the few like felonies that he hasn't checked off the list.
Yeah, that's really, that would, everybody would be like, oh, I'm shocked, but I'm not. It's.
Or if you're somebody in the audience and you go, bingo!
I'm sorry. I just had the Jon Jones criminal bingo game. I've been playing with my friends for 14 years. I will go with Jones. Then I'm going to go with Domingo Pilarte because it's the coolest fucking name I've ever heard. I'm worried people heard. I just think it's a cool name. That's not what I said. Domingo Pilarte is the coolest name I've ever heard. And then I'll go with Louis Latifi because I can see somehow it's like Derek Lewis takes his shorts off and throws them at Latifi. Latifi, angered by it, throws a vein at Lewis. It's going to be a great fight.
So that's your fight of the night, Lewis and
Latifi. That's my FON, yeah.
Okay. Eli, what are your 2 performers of the night and the fight of the night?
Let me just say 2 comments on the previous statement. Like,
please do.
Domingo Pilarte, first of all, sounds like you killed his father and you should prepare to die. But then Derek Lewis, he would get my vote on the most likely next person to defecate in the cage. That's what I feel like that's coming.
You can get good
feel like
odds
that's
on
the
that, I
next
bet.
stage.
I bet that's a
Yeah.
prop
Yeah.
bet in Vegas. It's like he's definitely leading the board.
That could be a dark horse bet that could really win some money. I mean, that's okay. So yeah, I'm gonna have to say Jon Jones. If we're talking about the fight of the night, and then Shevchenko. I think that Shevchenko is she gets some of the most dramatic, like most dominant performances, and she does some just amazing shit, and she's phenomenal. So yeah.
So let's double check. That's Jon Jones for performance of the night with
Yes.
the Shevchenko for performance of the night. Who is your fight of the night?
Oh man, I don't think either one of those are going to get the fight of the night. I just have a feeling that the fight of the night is going to be a bantamweight. Give me a bantamweight fight. What do we have?
Okay. We got Kilometer Johns versus Mario Batista.
Mhm.
And then we've got Journey Newsom versus Domingo Pilarte.
I'm going
And
to go with
Andre
Yeah.
Irwell versus Jonathan Martinez. So those are your options for bantams.
yes. I'm going to do Johns and Batista.
Okay. Batista. All right. So you mentioned earlier that you had a bet in mind. So now's your opportunity. What was the bet that you had in mind for this game?
So, should I win, which most likely that's going to be the case,
Mm.
then Kevin needs to do at least a 5-minute roll on video with the partner / opponent of his choosing, using, if you don't have access to a shock knife, then at least to some kind of training knife involved. That's like, you can start the rollout however you want, but then the someone has to like slide the training knife in there, and it's a free for all to get it first. So yeah, that's the wager.
You had that in the chamber the
First
whole
of all,
time?
did he say a
Yeah.
shock knife? Did someone
Yes.
hear shock knife?
Yes.
Not
Yes.
since my combatives one days has someone even threatened to shock me with anything. Whew, we used to use
Those
a boxing glove. So, Raph, we're going to have to workshop this one.
Yes, absolutely.
Because I might not be in a current place where I can find a blade-based jiu-jitsu roll.
Okay.
Oh, it's not. I mean, just throw a rubber training blade in there, and whoever gets it, and then they can use it at will. So
This gives everyone a nice intro into the psyche of Eli Knight. Not all of us walk
1000%.
around with rubber training blades.
See,
I've not.
You think
seen
like
those.
that. This makes me think if I was a studio executive at a network, I'd be like, Eli, pleasure to meet you. Huge fan of your YouTube channel. Tell me a little bit. Do you have any ideas for maybe a show? I know, obviously, maybe not a sitcom, but maybe an action drama. It's like, yeah, we put knives in the street and just see what happens.
I was going the exact other way. I wanted this show called Shock Knife, where couples compete to see who's really the most dangerous. Netflix has that hot or not, like 100% hotter. This is the same. It's just like, first up, a Florida couple. She's from the Central Bayou. He's a Miami guy. Someone's getting shock knifed. People are going to watch the shit out of that.
If we did have Billy Eichner running around and narrating it as two people were trying to shock knife each other, I'm in.
yes.
Okay, so,
Okay,
Kev,
so if
when you
I
say-
lose, I'll pitch Shock Knife, a show starring Eli Knight.
That's fair. Okay, Kev, is that where you want to go? You would pitch an imaginary show for Eli Knight.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And frankly, hey, loser has to pitch Shock Knife in its sincerity.
You really, I think that's a brilliant idea. We have to say that it's a joint production between Eli Knight, BJJ, and Verbal Tap.
Yeah, we might. Let's go on the grappling hour. Loser has to pitch it.
Well, we got to come up with a different name. That's a trademarked device there. So, we'll have
Shock
to
Knife.
figure out something.
Shark Tank had to have been a trademark term as well. I think we should need some lawyers.
Okay.
Yeah, buzzer knife doesn't really have the same ring to it. But
E-knife sounds like I'm just going to smoke something out of it, which is also fun.
so, okay, that is some vague variation but we have to do it very serious. A pitched show.
I am
for
serious
the-
about this topic. I could not wait
Yeah.
to produce it with, I don't know, the E Network. Who does the bare knuckle thing? That's who we need.
Oh God, yeah.
From the producers of Bare Knuckle Boxing
Can I
comes.
say this though? For all
This
of our
knife's
years of
been
doing
electrified.
all of our years of doing this show and like doing like a legitimate show, the one thing that's going to take off more than anything will be this idea when we have a studio executive coming over and being like, Raf, great ideas, great interviewing. I mean, love it. You've been doing really well or something. But Shock Knife.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
Oh my God, we've got Jimmy Smits on retainer. We can get him in on Shock Knife right now. If you say
Idris
yes.
Elba wants to host Shock Knife. You're not
Yes.
going to believe it.
Yeah,
That actually would be
here's why it would be a brilliant show, because it may start out with some people doing some kind of combatives training or some kind of self-defense, reality-based self-defense kind of stuff, and using that as a device. But then they got to be more interesting as the season goes on, and then you have to have like the season finale, and then what are you going to do next season to top it? So pretty soon,
Shock
it's gonna
crossbow.
Be like,
Oh, yeah.
I was gonna go with scout troops now are gonna have a free for all with it, and then that's like we have the cooking episode where Gordon Ramsay is hosting it, and he gets to shock knife people who are doing shitty in the kitchen. And
donkey! That's not how you shock knife someone.
Yeah, perfect. See,
yeah, Fox is really heavy into this one. I also like toward the series finale or the season finale, you just go, if you were anybody without that shock knife, you don't deserve to have the shock knife, and then cut the next week. Well, gentlemen, this has been very fun. Here's the way that we're going to put a momentary little break in the show. So we're going to all go away for a week, and then in a week's time, Eli, would you like to come back on the show and talk fights with us once we all view this card?
Absolutely. I mean, maybe not if my picks don't win, but it's I'll do it either way.
But especially if your picks don't win, because that's good radio.
Okay.
Kev, do you have any parting words to Senor Knight?
Cannot wait to dive into some of these videos. You need to check him out, Eli Knight, exactly as you'd expect it to be spelled. You're looking for some royalty to help you get to the Jiu-Jitsu roundtable. Check out Eli Knight.
That was a great slogan.
Trademark.
Boom.
That's all I got, though, Ref. We ready to wrap on this? Just
Yeah, let's call
another
it a day.
beating? Excellent.
The number you have dialed has been changed. The new number is... Please note, the new number is